Pesachim Daf Samach Daled, we always speak about how Torah and the Daf yomi makes a person, a better husband, a better father. And here's an amazing email from Michai Gez. He says, "Thank you again for the wonderful shiurim. I can also sing along to the beautiful niggin of You Mamish Changed My Flight, as I've attached a photo of me learning the daf while getting high on the Boirei Olam at 36,000 feet. This is one of my favorite pictures of his children just surrounding him, and he's just immersed in learning. I wouldn't have thought of learning on the plane if not for you and the Chevra, so thank you. Wishing you and the entire MDY family a great day. Amichai Gez, thank you, beautiful." We learned in the Mishnah that according to Rabbi Yehuda, not only is a person over Issa Raisa if you shech the carbon Pesach with having ownership of chametz, because the pasuk says lo sishchat al chametz, but the pasuk also refers to shechting a carbon tamid according to Rabbi Yehuda, because the pasuk says ziv chi, and a carbon tamid is a Kadosh Baruch Hu zevach. Rabbi Shimon argues. Rabbi Shimon says, since it says in the pasuk, there's two psukim that say similar things. It says lo sishchat al chametz and lo sizbach al chametz. Says Rabbi Shimon, we take the yud of one pasuk, of the zivchi of one pasuk, and put it on the zivchi of the second pasuk, and we have zevach and zvachai, and that teaches us that when you have a zevach, a carbon pesach, you're not over on any other carbon in the world. But when you don't have a zevach, in other words, during the mayit, chal mayit, there's no longer a carbon pesach, then you are over if you shech any other carbon. According to Reb Shimon, if you shecht a carbon shaloi l'shma, you're chayiv on this aveira of owning chametz. What if it's not shaloi l'shma? You don't say this carbon pesach is a shlamim. You just, it's stam. You'd be potter. Why? You could be medayik because you need an akira. In order to take a carbon pesach out of the name carbon pesach, you have to say so specifically, and just leaving it alone as is, it's not going to happen by itself. After Pesach, the Gemara says perhaps we're talking about the person who was tamei, and he needs this particular carbon pesach for Pesach Sheni, and that's why it didn't happen automatically. The Mishnah tells us a very long Mishnah with beautiful detail about what happens with the carbon pesach. The carbon pesach in the Beis Hamikdash, there were 3 groups. Each group had a minimum of 30 people. The Gemara says we're not sure if each group was 10 people times 3 is 30. Each group is 30. Therefore, we say each group should be 30. We could have gotten away with 50 people. Start out with 50. Start out with 30. Take out 10. Put in another 10. Take out 10. Put another 10. Total of 50. We did 30, 30, 30. The first group goes in, and the doors close. According to Abaya, they close with a nace, min hashamayim, and according to Rava, human beings close them. The difference is, do we have to count to make sure that the 3 groups, or HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of the groups? There was a tkiya, true tkiya with the trumpets. There was a line of kohanim that went all the way to the mizbeach, and each line either had all of their kalim that grabbed the blood, the bezichim, were all either gold or all silver, because it looked a lot better when they were all consistent, either gold or silver. The final kohen that was next to the mizbeach poured the blood onto the yesod, the base of the mizbeach. The beziach, the cup that holds the blood, didn't have a bottom, so that you couldn't put it down, so that the blood should not congeal. They should make sure that they throw the blood onto the mizbeach. The shechita itself can be done by a Yisrael, but from the Kabbalah and on, can only be done by a kohen. The kohen receives the blood from his friend, and only after that he receives it from his friend, he takes the empty kli that he has in his other hand and gives it back to the kohen that he got the full kli from. The Gemara says it's very possible that he actually took a step towards the mizbeach, because a hilacha might need walking. There's no right from our Mishnah. The reason why the Mishnah will tell us that there's so many kohanim in a row, the roiv am hadras melech, a mitzvah that's done with many people, is a lot better than done by an individual. Rabbi Yossi Aglili is the one that says that you pour the blood onto the yesod. We learn it from a bechar. Bechar the Torah uses a plural lashon as damam, chelbam, but there's only one bechar. It's coming to teach us Meiser and Pesach also require that you throw the blood on the mizbeach and you put the imurim on the mizbeach. How do we know the yesod on the base? Maybe the mizbeach itself. We learn it from Gzeir Shabbos, Rika from Oila, and the Oila is on the base. The Leviim would sing Hallel as Klal Yisrael would bring the Karbanis. The Mishnah tells us they never were able to repeat the Hallel 3 times in a row for each group. That's how quickly they were able to do the Karban Pesach. The third group, there were so few people in the third group that they never got to a Hafti Ki Yishma. Any avodah they did in the weekday, they did on Shabbos. They even cleaned the floor, which Chachamim weren't happy with. Who Chachamim, the Gemara is going to tell us, Rabbi Eliezer, who holds, you're not allowed to sweep and clean a floor on Shabbos midiraisa. There were hooks on the beams in the middle of the Azara, on the walls, and that's how they used to hang the carbon Pesach and skin the Korban Pesach. Once you run out of hooks, they had special sticks. They would put it from person to person and hang the animal on those sticks. Rabbi Eliezer says on Shabbos, those sticks are muktzah. We don't do that on Shabbos. You just put hand on shoulder, and that's how you remove the skin. The kohen would rip open the stomach of the animal, take out the imurim, put it into a bowl, and then the bowl, whatever's in the bowl, toss all the imurim onto the mizbeach. On Shabbos, the first group would come out and sit on Harabayis, wait until Motzei Shabbos so they could carry their korban home in order to roast it. The second group would sit in the chayil, and the third group would just stand in the azara. Akavi b'mehalal, according to one shita, was put in chayrim. He spoke not nicely against Shmai and Naftali. Rabbi Yehuda says he was never put in a nidui. And the lashon is that the doors wouldn't close on somebody as great as a kavi b'mehalal. So according to Abaye, it means the doors didn't close automatically min hashamayim, and according to Rava, Klal Yisrael didn't close the doors on a kavi b'mehalal. There's only one Pesach in history, even though there was millions of people that went into the Azara to do the Korban Pesach. Was only one Pesach that unfortunately an old man got crushed to death, and they called it Pesach Meuchen. Agrifas, the king, wanted to do a census on Klal Yisrael, and he instructed the Kohen Gadol to count how many korbanos were brought. The Kohen Gadol would take one kidney from each korban and lift it up, and his assistant would take a pebble and put it on the side. They counted 400,000, actually 1.2 million kidneys. Each korban had a minimum of 10 people per group per the korban. So that tells us that there were at least 12 million people that brought korbanos. That doesn't include all the people that were tamei and were traveling on the way. The only baziach kli that held something that had a bottom was the baziach of the levina, the cup that held the kli that held the frankincense that went on top of the lechem hapanim. If it would be like a cone shape, then the kohen would lean it on the bread and it could break the bread. So that's why that was the only kli that had a bottom. Have a wonderful day.